Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Women's Splain. And obviously, as always, thank you for listening. Always remember, also, please reach out to us, womensplainpod1@gmail.com if you have any questions in our last episode or this one. But today we're going to talk about a topic I think we've touched on before, but innovations in e-commerce, and specifically sort of luxury D2C brands.
Yeah, and we'll start with talking a little bit about Revolve, talk about their business model, how they've really succeeded, some challenges, as well as what they're doing to really revolutionize the influencer marketing industry too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to kick things off talking about Revolve, which I think is sort of the queen of effectively e-commerce, boutique, online. And they honestly have the smoothest supply chain I think I've ever seen. I mean, I think every single person who's ever used Revolve, which is like everyone alive, would literally agree that shipping is fire.
It's amazing.
Literally, you actually can get overnight delivery before noon. The returns are so easy. It's extremely smooth. So whoever is running their supply chain, A+, we got to steal them. They got to run the world. I'm not really sure. But, and they've also been extremely innovative and kind of like the OG in terms of kind of those, one of the first basically e-commerce focused, basically boutique only online websites that carry sort of every popular brand you can think of.
Yeah. I really don't remember what I did before Revolve right now. As you said, if I need something for an event, it's overnight. I order 3 sizes and then return to 2. It's super seamless. So I think they really did well in terms of being that one-stop shop for all female clothing. Lots of brands that we know and love that are, on the site. And speaking of, I know they recently acquired a major stake in Alexander Vautier. So they are a French couture brand. And so I'm really excited to see how that really plays out in terms of, I guess, the products, if there's going to be more innovation within the different lines and how they'll use, AI to really boost their product line.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. Even though Revolve carries effectively every popular brand you can think of, from sort of honestly low to very high end, this is, I think, the first time I've actually taken a stake in a brand. And, Revolve also has been really one of the first on the scene since its history in terms of creative social media and influencer marketing. I mean, they've had partnerships with effectively everyone you can think of. I think one of the most, iconic ones is Bridget, the influencer, recently got married. I mean, she has a really strong partnership with Revolve as an ambassador. Originally started effectively having her own picks and line within Revolve, and they've expanded that to so many others. They've had a really good relationship with brands generally, where The Row has done a specific Revolve only line. So it's interesting to see how they have, I guess, continued to evolve with taking this stake in this new brand as well.
Yeah. And I think what's really important to note is that they kind of started this whole influencer marketing, I think.
Yeah, completely.
Back when we didn't have TikTok, when there was barely any, marketing on Instagram. I remember they really created this thing called Revolve Fest, I believe, at Coachella, where they just invited all these celebrities, and that was just kind of their marketing budget for the year, and it was really, really successful. And as you said, there were a ton of partnerships with celebrities at that time. I know Kendall Jenner was one of the sponsors back in the day, and it was really cool to be invited there. And they had all these tents that were separate, and I think they really started this whole brand trips that we see all the time now. That's really effective. So I mean, I think they were really ahead of their time. This was I don't know, maybe 10 plus years ago. And so now, it's kind of common to have these kind of marketing campaigns, but really cool that they really thought of it first and started this whole industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when they started, they were founded back in 2003. They were probably they were at the forefront of e-commerce at that point. I mean, did people order anything online? And I think online shopping obviously took a huge, just huge development in the past 20 years. I mean, that's absolutely crazy to even think of. And I agree that they're, Revolve was the first, I believe, of this sort of e-commerce specific sort of boutique provider, website only, in which they don't really have their own line. The other ones were Net-a-Porter, I believe. I mean, but they're also different in their own way.
They're a bit more high end.
They're a lot more high end. They probably compete with more their, sort of other branch, Forward, which we can talk about too. But Revolve really started this, like, it's like we provide everything, sort of. And they're like, this is where you go, and this is the one-stop shop for how to look cute. And it's completely curated by basically influencers and who you want to look like. And they do like a lot of specialty relationships too, and like specialty lines, which is like really creative. And like the fact that they use Coachella as like their sort of like initial explosion is just so telling for who they are. I feel like that literally tells their brand story. Like they're like the cool girl aesthetic, you know, like before it was a thing. So it's very impressive that they were able to be so successful from 2003 to now.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned a little bit about like specialty lines, and I know they're really evolving their marketing techniques as like TikTok is booming and there's a lot more micro influencers. And so I know there's a ton of New York City based influencers that have some lines with them. Not a ton. There's one, Remy Bader, who I follow like on TikTok. I know she has a line for more like plus size women. And I really haven't seen anything like that with any other type of e-commerce platform yet. And so I think they're really leveraging that likability and I guess like micro influencers and really doing something that hasn't been done before.
Yeah, totally. And I think Revolve has also really continued to evolve in terms of its brand image too. I think it really started as like that cool girl sort of thing. I think it was honestly a little bit more low end, and it really developed to becoming more luxury. I think it targeted honestly younger consumers as well, and I think it's continued to evolve toward a larger range of ages. You know, I think in the beginning it was honestly more like if like Nasty Gal almost vibes. Like I don't know.
That.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like Nasty Gal kind of crashed and burned. So that would be a good case study. Like I have like the TV show that came out about it too. Yeah, crazy.
I used to love that.
Yeah, no, right? I mean, crazy. But it was kind of that at the beginning where it was like young, honestly, for sort of young, like teens, tweens, and like young adults, like college, honestly, for more like going out clothes and things that were more affordable and like easily shipped to you and quick and very trendy. And I think like over the years, it's really evolved to more of like, well, it provides everything, but really more toward like luxury, especially kind of with FWRD. And obviously like buying this brand is like a huge step in that direction. So I think that's a really interesting evolution. And maybe like telling of their own like consumers aging. Or like maybe the first people like us were Revolve when we were like, you know, 18. And now like we're in our late 20s and we're demanding something else, which is pretty interesting to see too.
And I think they're really adapting to like the changing styles.
Totally.
And fashion too, like the quiet luxury trend that's happening right now. You mentioned the row and FWRD we can also talk about in more detail, but the fact that they're working with these brands that are the quiet luxury and simple and really, really high end, they're really changing their, I guess, strategy in terms of what kind of brands to carry.
Yeah, totally. And I think Revolve also does a great job in terms of just like, I mean, obviously it's a technology is flawless. There are so many websites that are terrible. Their ordering is excellent. Like we've talked about that. But I think it also does a really good job in terms of like advertising and suggestions. So, I mean, I think like, for example, I think Revolve does the best job of when like you're looking at a dress that says this is a more similar one. It does a really good job in terms of like they have a pretty unique like size prediction tool. I think utilizes your like old orders. They have a great tool in which you can automatically like fill in your credit card information, everything is like easily saved. Things that I think, it seems like it would be simple. Revolve has executed really well. And I think as they continue to evolve as well, they've also sort of entered this like honestly acquiring Vautier as well. They're going to be able to use their like design expertise in combination with like how they've clearly utilized AI or algorithms and analysis and like customer data, which is also how the company started originally. When they were founded back in 2003, their founders, like their first thesis was like, we need to analyze customer data better and we can utilize this to enhance sales. And I think that's just like, that was really like the grounding part of the company. And I think they've really stayed true to that. And so I'm interested to see how sort of that technology thesis and like grounding is going to combine with like honestly a super like artistic, like almost haute couture vibe and how that design sort of is created.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm sure there was a lot of, analysis and work that went into their corporate development team when they were acquiring Vautier. And as you said, I think that is because consumers were really demanding that kind of brand. And it'll be really exciting to see, like, moving forward, how that really affects the product differentiation. Are they going to acquire, additional brands? What kind of brands are they going to acquire? Are they going to go super high end, or, stay affordable like the majority of their current product offerings now? There's really a lot that they can do. And I think this was a really strategic move on their end.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting to see too, because Revolve has also, sold itself as like a sustainable option, which I mean, like, whatever, we can argue if it is or not. And sort of also use sustainability like in their marketing and sort of like to target a younger consumer.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see them now purchasing like a very high-end brand, which is obviously not sustainable.
Yeah.
But I think it is very possible generally to make like high-end couture more sustainable with the use of like actual and like customer data analytics. Like if we were able, or if couture brands or high-end brands really actually did utilize customer like demand and sales like patterns in their own like production, I think they would probably throw away way less clothes, probably create like the right sizes and right inventory that was more of a fit to their customer, and be able to actually be, more sustainable and have higher margins. But it's complicated because like high-end fashion is also very artistic.
Yeah.
And I think, and like designers are artists. And so I think they're in this conflict of like, do I actually utilize technology to enhance my business? Or do I, create something beautiful for the world? And obviously super high custom couture like is different.
Yeah.
But for just like a high-end, more luxury brand like is honestly ready to wear, I think there is a middle ground where I think they could absolutely utilize at least customer demand for sizing, because a huge issue with the amount of clothes that we throw away is that companies make the wrong sizes.
Yeah.
Like absolutely. They make way too much of certain sizes than the other. And I think it's very easy to use customer data to analyze that.
I agree.
So that's really interesting. And I wonder if that was sort of a driver behind this partnership.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you see that now with like Net-a-Porter like having so many sales because they made so many excess sizes.
Totally.
And for them, like, I mean, that's like all the money that they're wasting. So they haven't really planned for it. So, and with like the rise of AI, and we talked about Rent the Runway on one episode when we talked about like their success really being rooted in their embracing of AI. I do wonder if these high-end brands, as you mentioned, will really utilize the technology available and make enough sizes and differentiate their products. And I mean, I think that is really the next way to go for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we'll see.
I agree. So yeah, I think that'll be really interesting. And, obviously too, Revolve has, created sort of other areas of their business. I think we mentioned FWRD, and FWRD is like extremely high end, only high-end luxury, while Revolve is a lot more of a mix. And it definitely, like, I think competes more with like the Net-a-Porter side. Kendall Jenner is like a huge ambassador for them. She has like her picks every year, and they're very expensive and preventative. So that's an interesting evolution too, to kind of see their partnership with FWRD, but has traditionally kept it very separate from Revolve.
Yeah.
Or like they really, honestly, no one really even knows that they're related.
Yeah.
And I think they've done that very purposefully.
I agree.
Wow, they're also purchasing now this extremely expensive luxury brand. So I'm wondering if they're actually going to combine their branding given this, or if they're really going to keep it separate, or maybe Revolve's going to go more low end. As I feel like we've seen like other conglomerates do to adapt.
That might make more sense, because I've used FWRD and Revolve many times, and when I first looked at FWRD, like I had no idea that it was associated with Revolve or it was a part of it. So I think, as you said, like they were very purposeful in kind of separating that, just because I probably would have still bought on that website, but of course there's some association with Revolve being more of like the everyday type of wear that maybe some clientele won't want to actually shop from something that's associated with that. But yeah, it might make sense for them to really differentiate the two and put Vautier on FWRD and do more of the acquisitions more on the high end on FWRD, and keep it to more of the everyday for Revolve. Yeah,
absolutely. And sort of like, I guess, make it more niche, and sort of split them a little bit more. So I wonder if that will also affect sort of their influencer marketing strategies and partnerships, just because I think the vast majority of influencers generally like especially the very successful ones, I mean, like sell their lifestyle because it's so glamorous, right? And like who knows what, I mean, I think some of it's real, some of it's not, but like most influencer marketing is marketing very high-end glamour. And even if they are marketing something that's like a less expensive dress or whatever, we're like having the reason why people buy it is the same reason people looked at fashion magazines. It's like, you know, the allure and et cetera, and like this, you know, aspirational ideal. So if Revolve sort of becomes lower end, I wonder how that's going to affect their current influencer partnerships or ones that are extremely successful, like Bridget, et cetera. Like, you know, like Danielle Bernstein, who has a partnership too and used to have her own line and, you know, carries her own stuff. And I've always found it so impressive. The Revolve was able to have these relationships with so many brands. It's so difficult for them, you know, to sell things in multiple places. But they are, and they're able to, I think, honestly, even cherry pick the products they choose, which is also interesting. And like, I think their relationship management is excellent. But I think it will be interesting to see how that evolves and maybe FWRD becomes more popular, but we'll see.
Yeah, maybe. And what do you think is the future of Revolve? Do you think there'll be other type of Revolves? Will there be like a roll up? Will they like get acquired?
I know. I mean, I think we're like e-commerce is really tough. And a lot of like these similar sites have like not really survived.
Yeah.
I think mostly because like Amazon dominates in a lot of ways. I mean, you can buy lots of clothes on Amazon. I bought plenty of clothes on Amazon, and they obviously have like access to everything. It can deliver anywhere. They have great shipping. It's, you know, obviously a large range of items and sizes, and a huge ease of use. And so I think like there's more, like that is really probably their largest competitor. I mean, I don't know, but it's probably their largest competitor.
Honestly.
Maybe beside like Net-a-Porter, which is like also super high end and different, or maybe, you know, other sort of like D2C forward brands. But I think I can't think of really another e-commerce only website that carries that level of diverse inventory and has that sort of level of loyalty and shipping. I literally can't think of another one. I think other than that, people are just buying from the brand themselves. Or like, honestly, maybe, I mean, I always thought Instagram Shop was going to be more successful than it has been. I think it's really odd that it hasn't taken off in the same way. I think it's really poor execution from my perspective. Like you know, I remember when first like hearing about it, I was friends with one of the designers on Instagram Shop, like back in 2019. I was like, that's so cool. It's going to literally go on fire. Yeah. It's like everyone's going to be buying shit on Instagram. 100%. And I don't know why like consumer preferences have not evolved. And I think that's really strange. And it must be something with like still like discomfort of like combining your like finances and Instagram or like something very weird. But honestly, Revolve has been like sort of the one with staying power for whatever reason. And I think it's probably because of its like supply chain. I think the pandemic took out a lot. So now, I mean, I don't know what Revolve, I think it'll probably like maybe continue to be the same, shift a little bit with FWRD. Might become exactly more everyday wear. I think it might more expand to, I mean, they don't really have, do they even have men's?
I don't even know.
I don't think so. Maybe expand to men's. Maybe expand to like children. I mean, children or like older people have more like a large selection. Maternity, etc. I think like which they've also evolved as their like consumers age. I don't know. Maybe that's the way it goes. Because also, I mean, I feel like Gen Z too has like a lot of other, I don't know, they shop differently. I think they, you know, shop more like secondhand. I think there's such a large secondhand and vintage market that's probably competing with them too. And I feel like Gen Z leans toward that. So it's in like sustainability, etc. So I don't really know how Revolve will mean. Maybe they'll also enter that market. It's possible. That would also be something they could do. You know, create some sort of secondhand, the real competitor, or rental business. That's something too they could definitely do like some sort of events rental business. I don't know, but I don't know if that necessarily makes sense to them, but that's what I think. What do you think?
No, I agree. And I think they like have accessories, they have jewelry, they have shoes, bags right now. I think they could probably expand to like more lifestyle, furniture even. I think that's a big
that's
big
interesting
one.
I wouldn't have thought of that.
Just because they're such a lifestyle brand, and I know they have like, I've never gotten like a product from there, but I'm sure they have like wine glasses, like
yeah, totally.
games,
They
things
do.
like that.
They have a bunch. Yeah, they do. I've gotten. What have I got? I've definitely gotten. I've gotten makeup for sure. They have a lot of beauty.
Oh, they do. Yeah,
they have a lot of beauty and they have a lot of skincare.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I feel like that was a recent evolution. And I think I have gotten like a blanket or something. So I think they do have some like maybe homeware.
Yeah, I agree. And like look at Zara and like Zara Home, you know, H&M has their own furniture line.
Yeah.
So I think it's Anthropologie.
Anthropologie,
so I think it's definitely possible.
That's a good
And they
angle.
already have like the whole supply chain.
I know they have the whole supply chain, which is obviously really well done. And then a lot of these brands that they're carrying also has that like within them. So it's like they're just basically adding to their product.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a great point too. I wonder if they'll continue to do acquisitions as well. So we'll see. I mean, this is like an interesting first one.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, I wouldn't have anticipated it. So I mean, even if maybe new competitors come out, they may acquire them too. But I'm excited to see where they go. And I think they've had a really interesting business journey.
I agree. What do you think the challenges are?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it. I mean, just generally e-commerce is hard in terms of what the business model. There is, I mean, the supply chain. Like there are so many factors that are extremely out of your control.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously, because Revolve isn't like a clothing brand, it's not like it's providing its own clothes. So everything that they provide is based on the relationship with the brand. And so like obviously that's extremely touchy. And so managing every brand relationship is obviously very key and like key to their sales as well. And so I don't know how they necessarily do it. They've somehow managed to keep like every brand ever, mostly probably because brands' own sales will also hurt if they are on a Revolve as well. But still, if you're a popular enough brand, like honestly, people will just come to your site. So it's interesting. Like, I mean, that's extremely difficult. And obviously, like customer service is really hard. And returns, etc. Honestly, fraud as well, and like chargebacks. I mean, like companies like Signified were created for that. You know, back in my payments days, the amount of just like chargebacks and fraud in e-commerce is like a huge issue. And somehow Revolve has sort of managed to survive. And honestly survive like a lot of the other sort of similar companies. But I mean, I think it will be challenging for them to continue to evolve and compete with like an Amazon, which may overtake them, or like maybe Instagram Shop will get its shit together and like it will crumble.
Yeah, or TikTok Shop.
Or honestly, you know, Revolve thrives so much off these brand partnerships. If like there is an issue with like their influencer or they partner, especially consider like Gen Z's activist vibe, they may lose a lot of customers too. And I think continuing to be relevant there. Yeah.
And I also feel like, as we talked about, like staying on top of AI and like, technology and really leveraging that versus just ignoring it like traditional brands. And I know they have a couple of those. And so really staying up to date with what they can leverage in terms of data.
Totally.
To really drive up their sales.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, we will also see if AI and like innovations in consumer data bring on new competitors, which they could. So that will also be something to sort of watch out for. And I think as long as they continue to innovate, which is like maybe they're going to also acquire like a technology company, I don't know. Maybe they're going to acquire an AI company, we'll see. I think they should, you know, have staying power.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited to see how they evolve and grow.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait for the new Vautier line. Yeah. I'm pumped.
Well, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, please email us at womensplainpod1@gmail.com with any questions, suggestions on topics, and we hope to see you soon.
Thanks so much for listening, guys.